So in today's video, I'll be looking at the 20-year rule application. So leave to remain under the 20-year rule. And we're looking at who can make this application and eligibility criteria. So this route is also known as a private route to settlement. So yeah, so when you talk about 20-year rule, leave to remain under the 20-year rule, so who can actually make this application? So you may be able to make this application if you've lived in UK for more than 20 years. This is regardless of your immigration status. So whether you're here legally or illegally, you can make this application. This is also provided that you meet the suitability criteria. So you may ask, what are these suitability criteria? So when we're talking about 20 years or more than 20 years continuous residence in UK, it does not include any time spent in prison. So either any time spent in prison or detention is not included. And also, if you're absent rather from UK for 6 months at any given time, that does not count towards the continuous period of that 20 years continuous period. And also, if you spend a total of 550 days away from UK, then that doesn't count as continuous period of 20 years of more of you being in UK. Or other requirements also, if you've been removed or deported on grounds of your application being refused, so permission to stay in UK being refused and you're deported, or that you left UK without any reasonable expectation to return to UK. So those breaks the continuous period of that 20 years or more. So let me just quickly recap. For you to be able to make application under the 20-year rule, you need to show that you lived in UK for more than 20 years, and this is regardless of your immigration status. So whether you're here legally or illegally, you are allowed to make this application. This is provided that you meet all those stability criteria that I mentioned in terms of what counts. Time in prison, any time imprisonment or detention does not count. If you're away from UK for any given time for more than 6 months, that does not count. If you spend a total of 550 days away from UK, then that breaks that continuous period of more than 20 years and it does not count. So if you refuse application or permission to stay in UK and then you either deported or removed, then that does not count. Or you left UK without a reasonable expectation to return, then that does not count. Now, before going any further, just to say that this video contains information only as usual. So this is a disclaimer. So basically, if you do need advice or you're not sure about information on this video, then I'll strongly suggest that you seek advice, because this video might not suit your particular circumstances. That's why it's always good to seek advice if you're unsure. Now, with that being said, let's go carry on. So basically, if you meet all these criteria, then you can submit your application online, pay the required fees. You will also be required to submit your biometrics as part of this application. Now, you may ask, what can you get once you submitted this application? So once your application is submitted, if the decision maker is satisfied that you meet all the suitability criteria, then you will be granted leave to remain. Usually it's for a period of 30 months. Now, in terms of condition of this leave, that will depend. So sometimes this leave will be granted with no recourse to public funds unless the decision maker, kind of is satisfied that you are at risk of destitution or imminent risk of destitution, or the welfare of a child outweighs actually the need for them to impose that no recourse to public fund. Then if that applies, they would grant you those leave to remain, or rather the 13 months leave to remain with access to public fund. So if not, your leave will be without access to public fund. So that's why it's actually quite important when you're applying, if you're looking to have access to public fund, to actually provide evidence to show that you're likely to be destitute or at risk of destitution or imminent destitution. So this will be things like if you're struggling to meet your daily living needs, maybe utility bills, buying food, living costs, those kind of thing, or things like you cannot pay for accommodation, you're likely to be homeless, those kind of thing, then make sure you provide as much evidence as possible. Now, Because you're applying under the 20-year rule, because you're trying to say to Home Office that you have lived in UK for 20 years, whether that is legally or illegally, they will need evidence, documentary evidence to show that. So it's also good to provide evidence. I mean, some evidence might be things like tenancy agreement, council tax, utility bill, bank statements if you have them, passport showing date of entry if applicable. So try and put in as much as evidence as possible. So when I do this application for my clients, I usually ask them to put income and expenditure, especially if they want to have access to public funds. So it's also a good idea to add income and expenditure, showing your income and your expenditure, because you do want home office to give you access to public funds. So you need to be able to show evidence that you are at risk of destitution or that you have got accommodation. So those kind of evidence is needed. So what are the conditions in terms of this application? What can you do once you're granted permission to stay in UK? You can of course work, whether that be employment, working as employed or self-employment. You're permitted to do that. You're also permitted to study. Now, what happens at the end of your 30 months? So because this is just remember at the beginning I said this is either the 20-year route or it's also private route to settlement. So you'll be required to spend for now anyway. I don't know what will happen, whether there'll be any changes in future. So this leave allows you to spend 10 years. So before the end of the 30 months, you'll be required to, of course, renew it and keep renewing it until you reach the 10-year point. Then you can apply for settlement after that. So provided that the immigration rule stays the same. So I hope this video is helpful, and if you like this kind of video, consider sharing it to other people so they will know, because there's this always this misconception that it's only people that are here illegally that can be able to apply under the 20-year rule. So this video is more or less to clarify that you can make application under the 20-year rule regardless of your immigration status, whether you're here legally or illegally. Thank you for stopping by, and bye bye.